Excellent. Yeah, so I kind of, well, I'll kind of there. See if any more of our group is gonna join us. I see, oh, here comes Anne, awesome. And Ellen was trying to, oh, good, here comes Jill. Yeah, there's Anne. And Jill's coming. And I know Ellen was trying to log on. I think she was having a little problem. So maybe she's getting the storm coming through.
Yes.
So anyway, Tayler, I'm just gonna let you be the queen bee today.
Okay, yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be with you today. And it's so exciting that you're all knitting the Millcreek tank. I'd love to see the colors you guys chose before I kind of do my demonstration, if that's okay.
Totally. Yeah. And you can unmute everybody and talk.
Okay. Yeah. June Cashmere, or June Sky, excuse me.
Oh, pretty.
Yeah,
Pretty.
it is pretty.
Yeah, it looks like are you done, Cheryl?
Yes.
Oh,
I have
awesome.
it put together. I waited. I finished knitting a couple of weeks, week and a half ago, but I told Amy I wanted to wait, so it just needs to be put together.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
And it looks like Anne is done.
Yeah, I just finished this morning, so I'm ready for the wet block, but I was really looking forward to meeting you today.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, this is super exciting. Anybody else want to share or chime in?
I'm knitting the indigo and I'm just finishing the back part. So
Awesome.
Only
Awesome.
halfway through.
Awesome.
Sig and I are both doing the espresso.
Awesome.
But Sig was like to hear, and then she just tore hers all out today.
Oh no, how come?
Hi, Tayler.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay. I ripped it out because everybody's heard this. I'm sorry already. But when I came here and tried yours on, it fits me perfectly. A little too short, so I'd have to add. But I realized that I was making the wrong side, and B, my fabric was too loose. It wasn't as dense as it needed to be. So
Okay.
Start again.
Yeah, well, we've all been there, I think.
Oh yeah, I don't mind. It's a good project. Now that I know what it's supposed to look like, then that's really helpful.
Awesome. Awesome. This is so exciting. It really means a lot to me that you guys are knitting it, and I hope that you're enjoying it and enjoy wearing it when it's finished. I thought, well, I'm definitely going to go over seaming, but does anybody want me to go over how I wet block the pieces first?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. All right, let me just grab.
Excuse me for interrupting. There's some background sound, but I can't hear what you're saying, Tayler. I'm sorry. There's some kind of background sound.
Is anybody else hearing it?
No.
Yeah, maybe let me mute and unmute and see if that helps.
Myself.
Did that help at all?
It almost sounds like some kind of meditation thing or something.
Oh yeah, I don't have any music going or anything. And my air isn't on.
And none of the rest of us can hear that though, so I think you're fine, Taylor.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I want to make sure everybody can hear okay. If I'm talking too quiet, just let me know. So for wet blocking, I think it's really important to wet block the pieces first before you seam, because it makes it a lot easier. So that's why I would recommend that. So is anybody completely new to wet blocking? Okay. Well, hopefully I have some tips that can help. The number one thing that I love when I'm wet blocking are blocking wires. So if you don't have any, I really recommend investing in a set. This is the set that I use, and I love them because they're compact, and then it comes with quite a bit, and they have memory, so you can wind them up, but when you undo them, they'll make a perfectly straight line, just like this. And then I'll switch my camera view in just a minute so you can see my hands better. So yeah, this will make it a lot easier. It is a process to kind of weave these into your edges, but it's totally worth it. And then I would also recommend blocking mats. And this set comes with T-pins. So, and as far as soap goes for soaking, I've used quite a few different kinds. Here are the kinds I mainly use. This is a Twig and Horn soap bar. I really love this. So this, when you're filling up your tub or whatever you're going to soak your pieces in, you can see this has been used a lot, but you would just kind of use it like you're washing your hands in the running water, and it'll kind of turn the water a milky color, so it won't be super bubbly or have a lot of suds, but it really makes the fabric so soft. So I love this kind. The other kinds, of course, are just the liquid. You just want to use something that you don't have to rinse out. So I know that sometimes people like to use a gentle shampoo or even baby shampoo. I haven't tried that on the cashmere, but Amy, what do you like to use when you're soaking?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, just a gentle.
Yeah, so you'll want to fill up your tub or your sink, whatever you're going to use, with lukewarm water. You don't want it hot, and you'll put the wool wash in at the same time, and then you'll submerge your pieces in the water, get all the air bubbles out so it's not floating. And I like to leave mine to soak overnight, but I would say at the very least about an hour you'd want to soak it. So the other tip, once it's done soaking, you're going to want to drain the water and then kind of get as much water out of your pieces as you can. But you never want to pick up your piece like by one side because it's going to be really heavy and it'll stretch it out. And you never want to wring it like this. You just kind of want to keep it in a ball and squeeze out as much water as you can. And once you feel like you've gotten as much water out as you can, you want to sandwich it between two dry, clean towels. And once you do that, you want to roll it up like a burrito. And then I like to use the heel of my hand to kind of press even more water out, and you'll be surprised how much more comes out. But by the end of all of that, you just want it to be damp. That's the goal. And then you would lay it out flat on your blocking mats. And now let me change my camera really quick. Okay, did that work? Can you guys see my hands now?
Yes.
Okay. So let me use this lighter piece. The brown is kind of hard to see on camera. But here's another swatch where it has that same slip stitch selvage that you guys have been working on your tanks. So this is going to be your guide, not only just for the blocking wires here that I'll show you, but also when we go to seam. So taking the time while you're blocking to kind of distinguish the selvage edge, it'll become even more of a help to you when you're seaming. So using that as your guide, I usually, so for the tank, you're going to have your bottom hem, your two sides, and then you're going to have your curved armhole and shoulders and neck. So I usually use a wire really anywhere there is an edge, and you can start anywhere. I usually start at the hem. So when you're doing a hem where it's either a cast on or a bind off, that will be your guide. So I usually just start in one corner, and you can come up from the bottom or the top, it doesn't matter. But what you're gonna do is just insert the blocking wire, then you're gonna pull it up to the front again. And I usually grab one whole stitch. So hopefully you guys can see that okay. That's one whole knit stitch. And then I skip a stitch, go to the back of the fabric, and then I'm going to come back up, grabbing one more full stitch, skip a stitch. So I'm just weaving in and out every time, grabbing one full stitch. You just want to be consistent with how, you know, like your skipping of a stitch. And I'll show you why in just a minute. Just go a little further. Okay, so you do this all the way across the bottom. So you can see I haven't come up into the fabric. I've stayed right along the cast on edge, and actually I can tell that I got off a little bit. There we go. The reason we want to stay right along that cast on edge and you want to be consistent is because as it dries, you just want it to be super straight. So if you were to go up into the fabric a little bit and kind of, if you get off course, there was that little dip in there because I went a little bit further and up into the fabric. So as it dries, this won't be perfectly straight right here. So I hope that's making sense. And please feel free to chime in with any questions you have. Okay, so once you go all the way across, then I would start on my sides. So let me show you how you would weave in your blocking wire along that selvage edge. So again, I just start just in a corner. Now I'm going to follow that slip stitch selvage. And the other thing I usually follow, and this is similar to how the Millcreek Tank rib pattern works, you're going to have that knit column right next to your slip stitch selvage. And so I kind of make sure that I'm not going into that knit column. So I'm going to start in a corner. And I'm just going to go in and out of this slip stitch selvage. So I'm going under both legs. Remember, the slip stitch selvage is going to be V's like this. So I'm making sure that I'm picking up both of those as I'm weaving in and out, while also making sure that I'm not going into this first column of knit stitches. Does anybody have any questions so far? So you can see this does take some time, but again, it's really worth it. Okay, so I would go all the way up the edge there. And then I would go up the other side. And then I would start working on the armholes, and they're curved. And so these wires really make it nice. You would just want to follow that slip stitch selvage the same. And once that wire is in, you can, we'll pretend this is my armhole, even though it's not curved. You can curve this to the shape that it kind of naturally wants to go, and use the pins in your, as you're pinning to shape it so it can dry in that shape. The blocking wires are really going to help you once they're all in, kind of, you can gently shape your piece. You can even out any of your stitches that maybe kind of feel maybe just kind of skew. So you can use those to help you. And then the other thing I would recommend is having the schematic next to you and a measuring tape. And again, I kind of start at the bottom and I just measure out however wide my piece is supposed to be. And then I start using my pins, and I'll start in that corner and stretch it if I need to. And I kind of start pinning in each corner. And then from there, you can kind of use just a few pins in between. The blocking wires really do most of the work for you. And that's another reason I really like them. You can do this with just pins, but it's a little bit trickier because you'll need a lot more pins. Because if you were to only put one in each corner, let's say, and then kind of one every 2 or 3 inches like you would if there's a wire, well, as it starts to dry, the fabric naturally wants to relax. So the pins are going to start pulling like this, wherever it's pinned. And then once it's dry, those little divots are going to stay. So, and those are a little bit bothersome. So you would really want to put the pins super close together so that doesn't happen. Let's see. So the other places I would put the blocking wires are along the shoulders. And a lot of times I've found that when I have them in the bottom, the sides, the armholes, and the shoulders, and I kind of shape it and pin those areas, a lot of times the neck area doesn't even need a wire because it just lays naturally where it's supposed to. But you can definitely weave a wire into that V-neck. I would probably do separate wires on each side. And then the back neck, the cool thing about, I wish I had the tank in front of me, but it has that pretty slope. So kind of one wire in each shoulder. And again, these wires will really help you be able to shape that. And then if you want to put a straight wire along the back neck, that would work. So once you get practice using blocking wires, you'll kind of just instinctively know where to put them or where you like to put them. So yeah, I would just pin it and leave it to dry. It usually only takes about a day or so, but if you find it's taking a little bit longer, just put like a cool fan running in that same room, and that'll help speed it up a little bit. But are there any questions on blocking?
I have a question.
Okay.
What brand are the blocking wires?
Yeah, I think it's pronounced Lazadas. I could be totally wrong in that. I got these from my LYS, but I'm pretty sure they have a website. Oh yeah, it's right here. Website right here. I love these. And if you find that when you get them, the ends are a little bit, you feel like maybe they would snag, just use some sandpaper to kind of sand those down, and that worked for me. But this, they have like a regular set. I got the deluxe set because it just came with more. They come with 2 different lengths of wires, so they're great for shawls and wraps too.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Taylor, what was the brand of the wool soap that you used?
Of the wool soap. So this bar is Twig and Horn. And then this, I think the brand is just Soak. Let's see. I got this from my LYS too. I'm not seeing a website, but I really like this kind. It comes in a bunch of different scents, but they're not super strong. And in fact, once you take it out of the wash, you don't really even smell it, which I kind of like. And then this is just Eucalyptus. So this one I see lots of places.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And I have the finished piece.
Oh, perfect.
If you want me to show anything, I'm happy to.
Okay. Maybe, yeah, maybe. Once we get into the seaming of the shoulders, I think that could be helpful.
Okay.
Any other questions on blocking?
I think that you might have indirectly answered it because it sounds like I need to be a lot more patient with my wires. Because the trouble I have is not stretching things when I block. It's if the piece is kind of stretched out and I need to make it smaller. Like I assume you just kind of squish it along the wires, or
Yeah. So yeah, that is kind of the trick. You never want to overstretch the piece. So just be gentle as you're threading in those wires, and I think that will help. But yeah, if you're finding that it's stretching too much, just gently kind of move it in closer to each other. I kind of smooth it out this direction too, just so it doesn't look like all scrunched. So yeah, just a delicate process. It does take, I think, just like everything else, it takes some practice.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I am curious, what's behind the philosophy to soak something overnight?
So I have just found that it really, it makes the piece even extra soft because it has more time to kind of soak in that wool wash. And because I travel a lot with my knits, like I bring them everywhere. It just ensures that every fiber is really getting saturated and the oils from our hands are gone, and any type of anything like that.
Or anything from yarn manufacturing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And the first piece I tried, like really the cashmere, the June Cashmere does not need that. But the first yarn that I tried in overnight soak was Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. And if you guys have ever knit with that, it's very rustic, kind of very toothy, and has a lot of texture. And I actually don't mind it. I really like that. But I found soaking it overnight, it softened it up so much, and it helped with the drape and all of those things. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah,
Awesome.
I definitely don't think that would hurt the cashmere.
Yeah.
Tayler, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I happen to be working on a cardigan for my husband in that yarn. And I did it before I sewed it together, and now I have to re-block it because I've done the front of it. And that's exactly what needs to happen. I will soak that overnight and it will be a lot better. So thank you.
You're welcome. That's perfect. Yeah, I made my husband a cardigan out of that yarn too, and he loves it. So awesome. Okay, well, if you guys think of any other questions about really anything, just let me know. But now I'll go over seaming. So
Can I ask you a question before you move on?
Yeah. No,
The
it's okay.
The swatch that you have, is that one of the ones that you've made out of June Cashmere that had the cardigan that had the elbow length sleeves?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, this is yeah, thank you. This is the Crosswater cardigan. This is out of the June Cashmere DK. It's such a nice fabric. I love it so much.
It is. That's another one I want to just support each other and make. It's just, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I would love to make another one.
Tayler's designs are just I don't know. I can't say enough about how beautiful, how thoughtful, how classic yet modern. And I just think they show off this yarn so much. And I'm just the biggest fan.
Thank you.
It's really pretty. I love the way the ribbing is just organic. It comes up and becomes, part of the cable. I think it's so pretty.
Oh, isn't that beautiful? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's one.
thank you. And I reworked it so there isn't a lone knit column in the middle. So if you were to ever knit it, it just is the cables, which I like even more. But that's why I swatch a lot. I kind of have a vision and sometimes it changes after I swatch. So awesome. Well, thank you all for the compliments. That is so nice. So a lot of times I get nervous releasing a seamed design or pattern because I know so many people avoid it. But really quick, just to kind of explain why I sometimes do seams and why sometimes I don't. I just think, well, first and foremost, it creates a more professional looking garment. I just think it's a really polished look. The other reason is it provides some structure, which I think is important. And especially in this super, super beautiful drapey June Cashmere fingering, I just think having that structure on the sides is really beneficial, and then along the seams. So I hope that after kind of seeing me seam this and after you seam your tanks, that it won't be something that is avoided quite as much. So again, the selvage edges are really going to be your friend during this process. And the other thing I like to mention is it's not permanent. So even if you get all the way, from the hem up to the underarm and you're like, oh my gosh, I hate this, you can totally undo it and try again. So another thing is just be patient, have really good lighting. I usually have like a cup of coffee or tea next to me as I'm going, just don't spill it. So I've actually really come to enjoy seaming, and it's something that's kind of meditative. So again, it'll just take some practice. And yeah, so the number one thing you'll need is a tapestry needle. So I usually use a blunt one, but if you find that you're having a hard time getting under the stitches that you need, there are some sharper ones out there. So just kind of play with the needle and see what you prefer. There's also some that have like a bent end, and I know that some people really find that to be helpful. So the other thing you'll need is a length of your yarn. So a good rule of thumb is you'll want a length that's about 3 to 4 times the length that you're seaming. So I usually just kind of lay it out and go 3 to 4 times that. And then sometimes I'll even do a little extra because I don't want to run out. Because if you run out of yarn like in the middle of a seam, it's just not going to be quite as strong. So if that happens, unfortunately, I would probably undo it and start over. You could leave a tail of the old length and start a new one and leave a tail and weave those in, but that area is going to be a little bit weaker. So I just need to remind myself really quick. Sorry, I'm just looking at the pattern really quick. So I can't remember. I think we seam the shoulders first. Yeah. Okay. So this part, don't be too worried about how the front shoulder is straight and the back shoulder is curved. Because again, what you're gonna focus on are those selvage edges. And so what I would line up first, and I hope I'm remembering how I did this. So your shoulder edge is gonna have that slip stitch selvage. And then the shoulder on the front is just going to be a bind off edge, like a straight edge. So what I would do, oh, the other thing that I always have when I'm seaming are these little removable safety pin looking stitch markers. So I kind of start, and it doesn't matter which shoulder you start, but you want to line up the edge of, so we're going to say this is the front, and here's my armhole edge, the shoulder, and then this is the back. This is how I would lay it out personally. Actually, this way, sorry. And line up where the edges of the armhole are, where the shoulders kind of start. And you'll be able to see, I know that this is so dark. This is where we might want to look at the tank that Amy has.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can remove spotlight and put spotlight on spotlight for everyone. I don't know, can I spotlight too? Well, maybe with co-hosts. Oh, sorry. Well, I'm just gonna show. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me get it so it's okay. So how would you have this on your, here's the back. There.
Oh yeah, you can kind of see it there. So the shoulder kind of, that ribbing starts to go in that slanted shape. So where that kind of starts is where you're going to line up the front shoulder. And so you'll line it up there, and then I use the little safety pins to kind of pin it in place so that I have the pieces where I want them as I'm seaming. So I would put one kind of at that first little intersecting part.
And you're be able to down here.
Yep, right there. And then from there, without kind of overstretching either of the shoulders, just I would put at least 2 more little pins. I would line up the end of that little slope at the end of the straight front shoulder.
Great.
So, yeah, so I would do both of the ends first, kind of line those up.
So here and here.
And the reason I would start there is then if I have any type of fabric I need to ease in, which hopefully you shouldn't, you'll be able to do that in the middle of your fabric, and then you won't have a bunch of fabric left over to try to squeeze in at the end. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, how is that?
I'm sorry. I have a question. Am I not going to be terribly worried about trying to match up the ribbing because I've got the seam in between? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, you won't be too worried about lining that up. That's a great question because you're going to have that detail of the ribbing kind of breaking it up in between.
So, right, they aren't really lined up there, but you can't tell that because of that seam. And then, of course, one is going to the back and one is going to the front. So,
yeah. Yeah, good question. Yeah, perfect. So,
okay, so I'll go back to you.
Yeah. So you can see I've kind of pinned it, And again, I kind of line it up so the shoulder is perpendicular so that I'm seaming this way instead of having it horizontal. You can do it this way if you want, because now we're just going to do what's called the mattress stitch. So whatever kind of works for you. I feel like all of us kind of see things differently. So I like to just point out that either way is correct. It doesn't matter. But here's how I've kind of lined up my fabric. So I have points where I know I want to end right here. Here's kind of my middle, and here's my start. So I have my seaming yarn, and I'm just gonna thread it onto my tapestry needle. Okay, and you can start from either side. I tend to start from the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this. You can keep this in place if you want. I am going to find my selvage edge because, again, this is my front because we have a straight bind off, and you'll still have your selvage edge. And this is a garter stitch selvage. So remember, yours is just a slip stitch. But I'm going to use that as my guide, and I'm going to come up in the very corner, coming up, making sure that it's just the selvage that I'm grabbing onto. So from the back of the fabric to the front, and I'm just going to pull my yarn until I have a tail that I can just weave in later. Okay, and now I'm going to come over to the left side fabric, and I'm going to do the same thing. Now this time I'm using my selvage coming this way. So I'm going to find the very corner. I'm going to come up through that selvage, just like this. I'm going to pull the length of yarn all the way through. Don't pull it too tight yet. So now they're starting to connect. What I want to do next is just really make sure that this join is strong, and to make sure it lines up really nicely, I'm going to come up from the back of the fabric one more time through the very same spot that I started in, and I'll show you what that does. So hopefully you guys can see it okay. See how that created like a little figure 8? Mm-hmm. That's the goal. That's just going to make sure that beginning point is really strong. Still don't pull it all the way tight yet. Okay, so now I'm just going to continue going back to this fabric, then back to this, just back and forth horizontally. Now I'm following this bind off straight edge on my front shoulder and the selvage edge on my back shoulder. And you always are going to start from where you ended last time. So I'll come up close here. Here's where I came out. So here's where that's where I'm gonna start. I'm gonna go in from front to back. Sorry, it's not wanting to go in. There we go. And then when I come up, I'm gonna just grab that selvage edge. See that slip stitch? And I didn't go into that first knit column. So I'm just grabbing one of those stitches, or you can kind of see horizontal bars in between the selvage and the fabric. Just grab, I grab 2 at a time. If that's kind of what your eye sees better than the selvage, you're looking for those as well. Okay, so now I'm going to come to the other side. Now, when you're following the bind off edge, you're going to be picking up a whole knit stitch. So again, start where you came out of last and pick up one whole stitch. So I'm going to keep doing that. Remember, start where you ended last. Then come up, grabbing that selvage stitch. Now I'm coming to this side, start where you ended, pick up a whole knit stitch. Sometimes that tail wants to get caught, so just make sure that that kind of stays out of the way. Okay, once you've done a few, what you're going to do, take your tail and your working yarn and you're just going to gently pull. And that's seaming yarn completely disappears. See how those edges lined up really, really nicely? And then I would just continue. You want to do that every inch or so. So sometimes I just pull apart gently just so I can see where I need to start. Does anybody have any questions so far? The nice thing about the shoulders, it isn't a super long length. So I think it's a great place to start. And especially if you're new to seaming, it'll be a great first seaming project. So I usually go, I don't know, like about an inch or so, just back and forth like this. And because I've used blocking wires in this swatch, it's really easy for me, for me to see kind of where I need to go. Okay, so once you've gone another inch or so, just pull on your yarn. And you don't want to pull too tight because what can happen is it can totally scrunch up. You just want to pull enough to where I pulled a little too tight and now it doesn't want to come undone, to where it's lying flat. Let me see if I can loosen it a little bit. And so that you can't see any of the seaming yarn. And of course you are using the same color that your project is. So it wouldn't be noticeable anyway, but you just don't want any gaps in there. So as I kind of keep going to keep kind of demonstrating, once you get to your middle marker, let's say you have like some extra fabric on one side. What you would want to do is pick up more on the side that has extra fabric, meaning let's say this side has some extra fabric. I would continue to pick up one selvage stitch on this side. But on this side, instead of only picking up one stitch, I would go and pick up half of another stitch. So now I have 1.5 stitches. That's just going to slowly start to ease that extra fabric in. And just do that a couple of times. And sometimes that's all it needs, is just a couple little extra pickups. So I'm going to pick up 1.5 again. And then I would just check my marker and make sure it's lining up. And if it needs even more eased in, just keep doing that. And then you could do the same on this side. If you have extra on the side that has your selvage edge, here's where those horizontal running bars would really come in handy. So I've been picking up 2, but you could go and pick up 1 more, so you would have 3. So that's how you would ease in on this side. And then just pick up 1 stitch over here. Does that make sense with how you would ease in any extra fabric?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So again, this is not permanent. Let's say you get your whole shoulder done, and let's say the edge where that neck extension is, let's say it kind of went too far into that, or there's still some space and you have to undo it and start over. All I do is just remove my tapestry needle, and then I just start to gently pull it apart until I see my seaming thread. I'm just going to start to undo it. So super easy to undo. And there's no harm done. But for the shoulder, I would just go until you meet that extension, that neck extension, and then I would just go ahead and do the other shoulder. Are there any questions on the shoulder seaming? Awesome. You guys have totally got this. I can't wait to see them all finished. So let me look at the pattern again and remind myself what I have you seam next. Okay, so next we'll do the side seams. So this one I would start out just the same, where I would start kind of just lining up what you need to seam. Let me just undo this really quick. Sorry, almost done. Okay, so you will want to start from the bottom up to your armhole. So again, I would just start at the bottom, lining up those bottom edges. And then, of course, these do not match, but let's just say my other swatch ended here. I want to match up the armhole, the edge of where the armholes are. So we'll say that's my armhole. And then from there, I would kind of make sure it's all laying flat and just pin periodically in between there. If they're both lying flat as you seam, hopefully they'll match up and you won't have to do any type of easing. Just go in here again. So this time it's a little bit simpler because you're working with slip stitch selvage and slip stitch selvage. So remember just to use those as your guide. And it's going to start out the same, where you're going to just start in one corner. And you're going to start from the back to the front. Then you're going to do the same on this other side. And then I'll show you how to do that little figure 8 again. So you're going to come up from the back of the fabric in that same spot that you started. And back to front. It makes that little figure 8. And now again, you're just going to go back and forth, picking up that slip stitch selvage on each side and starting where you came up from last, picking that up. Same over here. This is a garter stitch selvage, but I do like to use this selvage in some of my, if I remember right, this is the selvage I used in my Uinta pattern that I did out of June Cashmere. Just gonna go back and forth. Now I'm ready to kind of pull and make sure my ends line up or my bottom edges line up. I'm just gonna pull. They line up really well. Sometimes this is the part that I have to fiddle with the most. Like if I don't feel like they're lining up, I'll undo it and restart. So don't feel discouraged if you have to do that. Yeah, so and same thing with easing in fabric. If there's one side that you feel like isn't lining up quite right and you have some extra fabric, just pick up a little extra on the side that needs it. And I would go all the way up the side until you reach your armholes. Are there any questions on the side seaming? Okay. Awesome.
It's very zen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the first few projects I ever seamed, like when I was first learning how to knit, it felt overwhelming and kind of like all new things do, but it's really become something that I enjoy and it is very zen. I can do it watching TV now or yeah, I love it. Okay, so you would do that on both sides. And then the last part is those neck extensions. And Amy, I don't know if you have the tank right next to you again, so I can kind of show that. So if you haven't knit the front part or you haven't gotten to the neck, the sides of the V-neck, you're just going to extend. So you're going to have these long, thin strips that kind of come out from that V-neck, and you're going to join the two ends together, and then you're just going to seam it to the back neck. So hopefully you guys can see that okay. So the first thing is just joining those strips down the middle. And let me, I think we do that with the 3 needle bind off, but let me just make sure. Yeah, so you'll put the stitches that are live onto, I like to use double point needles when it's that small of an area, and you just join them using the 3 needle bind off. Is anybody unfamiliar with the 3 needle bind off?
Well, I probably have never done one.
Okay, let me see if I have something that I can demonstrate on. Give me just 1 second.
And don't be afraid to pipe in with any other questions or interesting things that happened while you were knitting or anything.
So Tayler, when I finished I started my neck edge, my stitches were not looking great with my decreases with the pattern, if that makes any sense. And I've had this issue on other projects too. And so what I ended up doing, because I don't know if I
just say, is Taylor, can you hear?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, good. Keep going.
So what I ended, thanks Amy. What I ended up doing is kind of ripping it out after about 10 rows, because it probably would have been fine once it was blocked, but it was not looking great. So what I ended up doing along the neck edge is just maintaining like a 6-stitch stockinette all the way up the edge of the V, so that every time if I just did my SSK and then the next stitch was going to be a purl in the pattern, I would just knit that, so that the next time I did a decrease, it was smooth. And it was a minor thing, like I said, that probably would have been fixed when I blocked it. Maybe I wouldn't have been able to tell, but it made me nervous. So that's why I did that.
Yeah, no, I actually love that. Yeah, if there are little things like that that you're not happy with, I love that you just went ahead and went with it. And I'm excited to see how it looks. I'm sure it looks great.
Well, I'll show you after it's blocked. I'm really happy with it, but oh my gosh, I love this pattern so much. I cannot wait to wear this. It's so pretty.
Thank you. That seriously makes me so happy. That's awesome. Okay.
There you are. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I teach at my LYS, so I have tons of little, this is such a silly one though. I was doing a top-down sweater, or no, it was bottom up, but still one piece where you join the sleeves onto the body and then you Kitchener the underarms together.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I can do the 3-needle bind off on this. So you'll have both sides of your neck extension on 2 separate needles, and you'll want the right sides together and the wrong sides facing out, so that the seam is on the wrong side. So that part of this is not correct. So just remember the wrong sides will be facing out. And I do explain that in the pattern. And then you'll take a spare needle. So again, I like to use double points, especially when it's so few stitches. And of course, this needle does not match, but you would just get, if you like the idea of using double points, just a 3rd double point. And you will knit this first stitch on the front needle together with the first stitch on the back needle. We're just going to knit those together, pull it through, and then you would let those fall off your needle, and then you're going to do that one more time. So insert into the first stitch on the front needle, and then the first stitch on the back needle, knit them together. And then you can start binding off. So you can use either one of these needles in your left hand to help. Go into that first one we made and bring it over and off. And that's what you would repeat. So knit one from the front needle together with the first on the back. Bind off. You just do that until all of the stitches are bound off. And then just pull that tail the rest of the way through. And there's the seam. So again, that's why you want the wrong sides facing out when you do this. So then that'll be on the wrong side. So that's all you'll do to join those extensions together. And then you'll just have this kind of long strip that you need to sew to your back neck. So one thing I think that I would do first though, before you even join the neck extensions together, because everything will be blocked, your shoulders will be joined, just lay each strip along the back neck and make sure that they aren't too long or too short before you join them, because it wouldn't be fun to have so much extra fabric to try to ease into the back neck. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So let's say you lay them out on your back neck and the extensions are way too long. All you would do, and I know it's scary, but just take out that scrap yarn and just unravel a little bit. Slip those stitches onto a double point needle, and then maybe keep count of how many rows you unravel and do the same on the other side and see if they match up just a little bit better. Now, if they're too short, what you can do is put your stitches onto a needle and just knit a few more rows on each side until they kind of match a little bit better, and then join them. And that'll save you a lot of time in the end as you go to seam that onto your back neck. So one other thing I forgot to mention, when you're seaming your shoulders, when you cut a length of yarn, and you could do this on either shoulder, I would do an extra long length of yarn on one of them, because what you can do is once you end at the neck, once you're ready to seam the neck, you can continue to use that length of yarn and just keep seaming using that same length. And then you have less ends to weave in. So you'll have your shoulder point and your back neck, and you'll have this neck extension that you just need to seam onto the back. Once you've joined those together, you're going to have that seam that is hopefully kind of in the middle of your back neck. What I would do is use, again, one of these little safety pin stitch markers. I would fold my back neck in half. We'll say this is my back neck. Find the middle and join that to the seam on my neck extension, so those match up. So it'll be right in the middle of the back neck. And then you have two sections where if you do end up having to ease a little bit of fabric in on one side, you can do that. But then it's the same idea where your back neck is going to be a bind off edge, and your neck extension is going to have that slip stitch selvage. So you're just going to keep going back and forth until it's all seamed. You get to the next shoulder, and then you can go ahead and weave that end in, and you're all done. You can, if you want to, reblock the entire garment to kind of, what's the word I want to use? Kind of flatten the seams a little bit, but I actually found that I didn't need to. If you feel like they're super bulky, you can reblock again using that same method, or you can use a gentle steamer and kind of steam just the seam edges. But yeah, does anybody have any questions?
I thought I'd show again because you can just see it so beautifully on your sample here. So you can see, because I was going to ask you, I should look back at the pattern, but it looks like this is one like continuous seam across the back. And so then you just explained that you just kept a really long, for one of the edges, you kept a really long sewing yarn.
Yeah, yep.
But I think you can see how you lined up, the center, and you can even see like where you had to sort of gather in a little to help the ease to one side of the seam here. Here's the center.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and it's just so beautiful. The seam, this is the inside, of course, and the seams are like, oh, wear this inside out. It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Any other close-ups? Anytime anybody needs a close-up, you just have to holler and say, hey, Amy, can you either take a photo of a close-up of a section, or can we get on a Zoom, or be sure to show us next time? I'm just really happy anytime, but you don't have to wait till we get together again. If you're want to see something, you know, I'm happy to show you. And anyway, so there's all the beautiful details on the, and the lovely, that's what the neck seam looks like in the back. And then, and you can't see where she, I get back here. You can't see where Tayler eased there. Oh, I think it's there. But like, you'll never see that.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, and there's those beautiful shoulder seams that just flow right into that back top. It is so beautiful.
Oh, and I did forget to mention, I think there's one other step after all the seaming, which is edging the armholes. So I didn't know if anybody wanted to see that really quick, or we can do, you know, I can hop on another Zoom later and show you at another time.
Amy, could you show the armhole at the top that was seamed where the edge stitches are? For the armhole edging.
That's the armhole edging. So
Okay.
it's almost squared up.
Mm-hmm.
If you have time to show that armhole edging, I would appreciate it.
See how that is at the back? It almost is like squared up where it meets.
Right.
Does that make sense? And then when you open it up.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to look at. And you really just pick up stitches and then bind off, right?
Yeah, for the armhole. Yeah, let me bring my
Yes, we'll go back to you and you show.
Yeah, let me just change my camera again.
And I'm recording this, and I caught my computer from shutting off, and right, there we go. And so I'll be putting this on our KAL page, and so this will be there for you when you want to refer back to it.
Okay, I'm just trying to find the same yarn because I think it'll give a better effect. Let me see.
And if this catches you too off guard, what we can do, Tayler, is you could just record it and send it to me, and I can throw that on.
Okay, I think just
But if you find it, that's great. Anybody who has to leave, you can go ahead. Again, this will be on the site for you. But
okay, well, I can't find the same weight. I'll use a contrast color, but it's about the same weight. So you'll just want to use your yarn, and what you're going to do is start at the underarm seam, and you're going to pick up and knit in every stitch and or row. So I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering right on the tank, we didn't bind off like any initial stitches at the underarm, right? Like there's not a straight edge along the very bottom.
There is.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah, there is.
Okay, thank you. So you'll start at that seam. So those first pickups that you do are going to be into actual stitches. So it would be like along an edge like this. So again, just start at the seam and you're going to insert your needle from front to back into each stitch. So remember, we're looking for those V's. So I'm just going into that V from front to back. And take your yarn. Wrap it around as if to knit and just pull it through. Now I need one more stitch picked up before I can start binding off. So again, I'm going to find the next knit stitch, go front to back, wrap, pull through. And I, again, like to use double points to do this. And then you're just going to start binding off. So you'll keep picking up and binding off as you go. So once you get to that slip stitch selvage, again, you're going to use that as your guide. So you're going to go into that selvage, pick up. Now, remember those little running bars that are in between each selvage? You can kind of see one right here. Because when you do the slip stitch, each slip stitch actually counts as 2 rows. So to make sure your armhole edge doesn't start to pucker or become too tight, I actually find those running bars and I go right in between there. Just like this. Wrap my yarn around, pull it through, and then I'm going to start binding off. And I will do quite a few so you can see the effect, hopefully. Okay, so now here's my next slip stitch. Now I'm going to find that little bar and go right in between there. So again, good lighting is key to this part. And this is also not permanent. So if you find that it's just kind of puckering or not looking right, you can totally undo it. And I'll show you how. But you just want to go into every stitch and row. What this is going to do is it's just going to create a more finished looking edge. It's going to kind of bring that selvage edge, kind of curl it to the inside and also provide a little bit more stability and structure so it doesn't stretch out over time.
It's beautiful.
Okay, so hopefully you guys can see the effect. It's in a contrasting yarn in different weight, but see, it's just creating another edge, and it's going to kind of curl it in and be super sturdy. So you would just do that all the way around each armhole. And again, you can wet block the entire garment, or I just lightly steamed that edge. But again, if you get a ways and you find it's kind of puckering, that might mean it's a little too tight. So you could try maybe a size bigger needle, see how that works. But if you're unhappy with it, all you do, remove your needle, just take your yarn, and you can start over. So super easy, but it's a great finish for the armholes.
I just want to show it again because it is like, don't skip the step. It's so gorgeous.
Yeah, Amy might be able to show like how sturdy it is. It's not going to stretch
Exactly.
out.
And you can, I can't even, like, it's not let too tight or anything, but there's no give. It's not going to like go all wonky.
Yeah. And
It's
especially,
really, I mean, I think that all of those details are what are keeping this like just so wearable all the time. Yeah. So, and that's what it looks like.
awesome.
Wow. Back to Tayler. Well, anybody have any anything else? Can't wait to get to that part. I can't wait to do the cardigan next. There's a couple others who really are looking forward to that too.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm so excited to see everybody's finished piece. So I would love to see pictures, or maybe when everybody's done, I can hop on the Zoom again.
Yeah. Anybody else? Anything to?
No, just thank you so much, both of you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Very helpful. Yes.
Cool. Well, Tayler, thank you so much for taking your Sunday and
Yeah, you're welcome.
helping and joining and keep sharing your patterns. They're so beautiful.
Thank you.
If you haven't, Taylor's on Ravelry and stuff, so check out her other things, other companies, other yarns. This beautiful work.
Thank you so much. See you later.
All right. Take care, everybody. See you in a couple
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.